After going on a rant on my Instagram story on Saturday, I decided to make a video about what I was ranting about because I had so much to say, so many emotions, and an Instagram rant was not gonna cut it, so... Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about Love is Blind. I have a whole 5 pages of notes written about this, so yeah. So Love is Blind is a TV show that kind of came out a little bit of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden everybody and their mother was talking about it on social media, and I have no clue where she came from. It was trending on Netflix. They added these top 10 banners, and it was in the top 10. Super big, super popular. A lot of people were talking about it. And there were a few things that were just problematic about it as a whole. And we're going to be talking about the show as a whole, but there's a lot of problems. So basically the concept is that it's all these singles go into these pods and date people without seeing each other.
I've met the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. I've never seen her before.
Here, you will choose someone to marry.
Hello.
Nice to hear from you. Can't say see ya.
Without ever seeing them.
And they build these emotional relationships, and then after a few days of talking, one of them proposes to the other, and they see each other outside of the pod, go on vacation, get to know each other for a few days, and then they get married. And it's supposed to be an experiment to see if love is truly blind. In that itself, when I went into watching the show, I thought that they were in the pods until their wedding day. Also, no, it's gonna be spoilers. If you haven't watched it all and you plan on watching it all, don't watch this video yet. We'll come back to it later. In my head, I thought that they weren't going to be seeing each other until she's walking down the aisle. I also want to comment that these are all heterosexual relationships, and we'll get into that a little bit. I'm not going to comment too much on that because I am heterosexual myself, and I don't feel like I have the actual experience to comment on the situation I will talk about in a minute. Anyways, that being said, it was a little bit misleading in the first episode when they talk about the experiment. Before getting started, we're just going to talk about Carlton and Diamond's relationship. Carlton and Diamond had connected in the pods. Carlton proposed to Diamond. Upon getting to their Mexican vacation, Carlton came out to Diamond as bisexual, and it was kind of a roller coaster reaction where she was oh my gosh, I had no idea, and then she was I'm here for you, and then she was I'm confused, are you cheating on me, are you gonna cheat on me with a man? And that whole context was super biphobic. I don't feel like I have the exact knowledge to comment on the situation because I've never been in Carlton's position, and they really painted him to be this really awful man afterwards. So I can't really comment on that. I don't have the experience to comment on that. So if you go on Twitter, there's a bunch of threads talking about it in detail, people comparing experiences. So I highly suggest checking those out. If you just look up #LoveIsBlindCarlton on Twitter, you'll find a bunch of threads just talking about what happened there, and people will actually be able to explain his point of view better than I will be, obviously. I had a lot of people reaching out saying, after I posted my Instagram story, just saying that they didn't appreciate the lack of sexual diversity, and that there wasn't any queer relationships and stuff like that. If I find any videos before uploading this that specifically address that, I will link them below. But if not, Twitter is your best friend in this situation. Let's get into the things that I do feel comfortable commenting on. So this show is presented as an experiment. However, I feel there isn't a proper hypothesis. There isn't it didn't feel they had a lot of evidence to back, there obviously wasn't any pre-research done for it in terms of what's presented to you. It's very much another episode of The Bachelor, I find, which is essentially what it is. There's nothing that really talks about the history of dating. It's not a very research-based experiment. I also had to question, how is love blind if every single person on that show looks like they walked off of Paris Fashion Week? I don't understand how you can say love is blind when every single person in that show was below a size 6, and for the women, and like all the men were super muscular and attractive and all the women were really attractive. It was all like generic societal beauty standards that were just portrayed there. So really there's no proof that love is universally blind, because they didn't have anybody over like a certain size point. And again, everybody was active, fit, like looked like they walked out of a magazine. And if they wanted conventionally attractive people, there are so many beautiful plus size men and women that you can find literally on Instagram, and would have still reinforced, like would have still been entertaining to watch because they're still attractive. Like they still would have fit like that standard. However, they would be outside of standard sizing and would still like still wouldn't prove the whole love is blind theory, but would prove that love isn't size exclusive in a way. Basically trying to say here is that like they still could have had like an entertaining and attractive show while also still being representative of the plus size community, just like body diversity, etc. So yeah, if they wanted to stay within like a more conventionally attractive field, there's lots and lots and lots of beautiful plus size men and women models, plus size female and male models that could have adequately represented that love isn't size exclusive. Okay, so now that we're past that, let's get to, like I said, there's a lack of physical diversity, but there's also a lack of racial diversity. I know that the people who made it past the pods, there was 3 people of color, and that was it. So there's 3 non-white people, basically. So there's 3 non-white people, and then there's a Latina, and yeah. So there's 3 people of color, a Latina, the rest is all white people. So there's a lack of racial diversity in terms of like the finalists. Grand scheme, I think there was a few more people who weren't white, but again, they weren't really shown that much in the show. They also didn't follow every single couple that left the pod. They only covered a few of them, and I was reading earlier today that there were several other couples that they just didn't cover at all. So there's that. And it was just like a financially irresponsible show. Basically, they had to go all the way to the wedding to decide whether or not they wanted to be with the other person for the rest of their lives. And the contestants were actually paying for part of the wedding. The production paid for most of the for like the basic costs, but in terms of like suits, dresses, like all that kind of stuff, that was all paid for by the contestants. And there were multiple couples that split up at the wedding. And so I feel like that's kind of financially irresponsible. Another reason that this is a little bit financially irresponsible is because we're aware that Amber is in a lot of debt, and they're still forcing the contestants to pay that amount of money on potentially not getting married. Super consumeristic, not cool. My main thing is like, why did they have to wait until the wedding? Like, why did they have to get married in general? Like, why couldn't they just go on a few dates and see if after that they wanted to get engaged? Like, why not ask the other person to be their significant other still in the pod, see each other for the first time, go on real dates, go on that vacation, move in together, and then see if they want to be engaged after that like 36-day process. I feel like that would make more sense and would be a lot more like realistic, because in the pods things are rushed, and obviously the context of the show isn't actually to see if love is blind, it's to see if these random strangers can fall in love within 36 days. So if you're already going to discredit the whole physical aspect of it, at least see if like emotional connections can take you to engagement instead of getting married, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. It might not make sense. I'm going to talk about couple-specific stuff now, so if you haven't watched the show and you plan on watching it, or you're currently watching it and you don't want to know how it ends, this is where I suggest you click off entirely. But if you want to know spoilers, stay. You can get my engagement up. That's cool. So yeah, I'm going to start by talking about Kelly and Kenny, because this is probably one of the most problematic situations. Kenny had obviously fallen hopelessly in love with Kelly in the pod, going off about how she was the most amazing woman, just personality wise, and he throughout the whole thing was hopelessly in love with her, and he was attracted to her, and he really seemed like he loved this woman. But Kelly was not willing to be affectionate with him. Everybody has the right to say no. And like throughout most of the show, I was just like, that's fine. Like maybe she's saving herself. Like maybe she's just not there yet. Like whatever. Like totally normal. You can date somebody without, you know, putting out, you know, for a while until the wedding, whatever. What people decide to do with their bodies is entirely up to them. So she keeps telling him, no, I'm like so in love with you, you're so attractive, blah, 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 I love you, takes it to the wedding, and then at the wedding, she says no. Come to like find out that it's because she was not attracted to him, like point blank was not attracted to him. So already there, we have love is not blind, because this woman wouldn't marry this man because she's not attracted to him. And that's fine, like you don't have to be attracted to someone. But leading them on until the wedding, telling them that you're in love with them, telling them that you're gonna marry them, and then at the wedding saying, I won't marry you because I am not attracted to you, that sucks. That's rude. That's mean. It was at the bachelorette party episode or part that she basically said that she wasn't attracted to him. It was just very rude. It was very mean. And I can't even imagine what Kenny felt in that moment. So yeah, that was awful. Next, there's Jessica and Mark. From the get-go, Jessica really I did not like her. I made that very clear on Twitter. Jessica bothered me, and she was super shallow. And, like, she basically hit it off with Mark right off the bat in the pod. They had so much in common. The only problem was that she's 34 and he's 24. When you get to a certain age, like, age gaps don't really matter as much, and that's fine. And Mark had always been like, I don't care that you're 34. I love you anyways. Let's still get married if you're down, like, whatever. And then she also hit it off with Barnett. Barnett was kind of, like, fuckboy-y, kind of, like, in the pods. And she was, like, head over heels. He was the one that she was gonna pick, blah, blah, blah. She went in the pods and told Mark, like, there's someone else, and blah, blah, blah. And Mark said, I don't deserve this. And then Barnett basically said that he wasn't sure he wanted to marry her. So she then went back running to Mark. Which is like... She rejected the man. Mark, come on, like, you know your worth. You said you knew your worth, and I get it, but, like, also, you can do so much better than Jessica. Yeah, so she basically settled for Mark, but when they got out of the pods, every time she would get drunk, she would, like, go to Barnett and be all over him and, like, try to take him, like, away almost, but never explicitly said it, but it was super implied, and then would run back to Mark, and Mark was obviously confused because one minute, like, she didn't want to be with him, then the next she was all over him, and he was just confused. Jessica, not that you'd be watching this, but girl, you have some, like, serious issues, and, like, work on yourself, and stop treating men like garbage. Next, Janina and Damien. They were probably the most entertaining to watch because they were so up and down and dramatic. They obviously didn't communicate well, but it seemed really scripted. Their whole relationship seemed scripted. This is a theory that everybody has. Like, Janina was way too dramatic, like, unrealistically dramatic, and Damien was way too, like, mellow and didn't care. Their cuts for their, like, scenes were weird, and, like, the scene right after Damien's parents said they didn't want to meet her, some cuts she didn't have makeup on, and then they'd switch to another angle, and then she did, and then back and forth, and there would be makeup, then there wouldn't be makeup, then there would be makeup, then there wouldn't be makeup, and that was kind of weird to me. And then when Damien said he didn't want to marry her, she, like, ran out of the building and slipped and got mud on her dress, and then when she came back in to talk it out, the mud was gone, and she ripped her dress, her very expensive dress. Where's the mud? What kind of laundry detergent do they use? Damien basically said that he said no for Janina's sake. I didn't really read too much into that. Like, she obviously wasn't ready. He obviously wasn't ready, so whatever. But there's rumors that they're back together. The internet seems to think that they're back together because she wore her ring in an Instagram photo. So I guess we'll see on tomorrow's episode, like, reunion episode. Yeah. Then there's Cam and Lauren. I actually don't have too much to say about them. I found that they meshed really well. They ended up getting married. They seem to be doing well. Good on them. We stan. On to the next. Amber and Barnett. Amber seems cool, actually. Amber seems cool. She's very out there. She's a very loud character. She was in the military, I guess. But she's also in a lot of debt. Student loans, credit card debt, you name it, she's got it. it kind of seemed like she was kind of going with an engineer so that he could pay it off, and it was kind of weird because she doesn't work, she doesn't want to work, so it kind of seemed like a cash grab. But like, if she loves him and is getting her coin, that's cool. You do you. I won't. You do you. Yeah. Barnett had a really, as I mentioned earlier, he had a really like fuckboy attitude. He was kind of like talking and like emotionally connected to a few different girls and ended up picking Amber anyways. But then when they got out of the pod, he seemed really committed to her and like he really wanted to be with her. So if that's working out for them, apparently they're still married. If that's working out for them, good for them. Honestly, I wish them the best in their marriage. Now, my conclusion. This experiment wasn't super conclusive, but I guess kind of proved that love isn't blind, because Kelly broke up with Kenny because she wasn't attracted to him. Jessica left Mark for many reasons, but one of them being that she wasn't attracted to him. They kind of sold it as this huge revolutionary experiment when really it was pretty basic, just reality TV. Didn't really have a conclusion. The promotion for it, like the way that it's described, is super misleading. The overall show is super exclusive to a certain like class of people, and it's honestly slightly boring to watch. Like, everything was kind of predictable and there wasn't like anything going on. Like, for reality TV, it was pretty boring in my opinion. I'm probably still gonna watch the reunion tomorrow, as I mentioned already, because I kind of want to know what happens in a way. So yeah, let me know any of your conspiracies in the comments. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't really do commentary at all, so let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what you thought of the show overall below. Let me know if you have any conspiracies or anything that you didn't like about the show, any tips for the production if they decide to do it again, what you thought, if you agree, disagree with some of the things that I said. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers before my 20th birthday on March 19th. So if you guys want to hit subscribe and see more videos from me, that would be awesome. And it would mean the world to me. We're like 41 away, I think, as I'm filming this. That would be awesome, and I would be happy to have you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and again, let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!